As our life allows, we like to share up to a few videos per week with you lovely folks. You may have noticed a pretty solid drop off in the last many days, and we've got some really beautiful, sweet news to share at the end of this video about why that is. I think for folks that are most interested in what we're up to around gardens and chickens and things of that ilk, what I'd like to do is spend a little time giving a minor update on little tidbits of our whole system, where things stand, little senses of what new videos we might be putting out in the next few days or so, few weeks. And then towards the end, we'd love to share our personal news with those who are interested in it. One part of our life recently that's been absorbing a fair bit of our interest and attention is the high tunnel over at our neighbors, as well as the gardens around that area. I'd like to take a quick look there first. We were really lucky to get, I think it was 3 heaping loads of wood chips from our friend Keith, who's an amazing arborist. Keith, if you're watching this, you're a miracle worker. Thanks for everything you do. And we got those piles over there hanging out. It was all the way out into the driveway of our neighbors for a while. And we chipped away at it, no pun intended, and worked on redoing all of the walkways really, really deeply. We're not sheet mulching, we're just pinning down material as thoroughly as we can, and then going ahead and redefining garden beds by dumping compost from the chicken yard. As time allows, we can transplant in things like different brassicas, we can seed in things like lettuces, we can put in some nursery crops. Over there is sea berry and goji and perennial kale. But that's the theme, as time allows, is to mulch deeply with a chippy chip or some sort of high carbon material for the walkways, and then side dress all of the plants in here with rich compost. I'm going to do a deeper dive soon enough. This is where we had our air prune boxes last year, and it's phenomenal how much growth is happening in here. But let's look at the high tunnel. This space has been so sweet to us this season. Got to taste our first figs. Probably had about 10 or 15 so far. We'll see how many more come to fruition. Harvested a mountain of hot peppers out of here, habaneros for days. Sasha made a bunch of really beautiful hot sauce with that. We're wrapping up our tomato harvest. You can see the last little scragalones. We're leaving them there. They're not really in the way. We'll let them ripen a bit more. First frost might be in a few days, so we get to enjoy almost into November some tomatoes here. And then the real work at the moment to think about making time for is to harvest this ginger. There's some beautiful gingers all throughout here. We started doing some harvests, hand pulling a little bit, getting a feel for it. You can see they're dotted all throughout. That'll be its own video, sharing notes of our first experience growing ginger in a high tunnel context. We did some experiments with growing them directly on hot compost. It worked beautifully. I'd love to share more about that, but we'll talk about that in greater detail another time. What a treat to see. This is all growth from this year, this fig. This had died down to the ground over winter and then grew up this year enough to actually push up against the ceiling, giving me a good reminder that I can think about a really hard pruning regime to keep these in check and to keep them sheltered from the cold. The other work in here, ready for another deep dive at another time, is trying to find nooks and crannies to establish our winter crops. We actually pulled the habaneros that were growing here, cut them back really hard, and healed them into a nursery pot in the root cellar to maybe be perennial next year. More notes on that later. And then took seedling weeds of lettuces that were outside from where we had cleaned lettuce plants for seed this season. We are very loose intentionally about that, so little seedlings spontaneously show up. It's been transplanting in as fast and furious as time allows. And so you can see where the ginger and the tulsi and the tomatoes, the peppers, the hot weather crops have been the overstory. We very deliberately established the understory of the winter crops. So once the first frost comes and we finish our ginger harvest, we finish our tomato harvest, clean up all the lines and trellising, we'll be left with a really well-established bed of parsley and lettuce and kale. This should coast us pretty deeply into the winter, especially if we button up the space and put the low tunnel on. We should be eating all the way until January. That's the high tunnel. Lots going on. More to talk about another time, but there's a quick update, moderately quick. It's the beauty of saving seed and being really sloppy about it. This is from when I was saving seed of a beautiful variegated mustard, saving seed from some bib lettuce, basically using a bowl and winnowing and blowing off the chaff and debris over this rich soil These are all weeds. These are all spontaneous plants that we can now harvest from, but then also dig up and thin. You can see where I dig little pockets, get walkways back, and then more and more show up. So it's this never-ending sea of the weeds we'd want. For being the end of October, it's kind of wacky that I'm walking around in a t-shirt, especially considering that's pretty early morning. We've had temperatures in the mid 70s, sunny, spooky warm, beautifully spooky warm. And so what we're trying to do is leverage that window before the ground starts to get extremely saturated from rains. We're looking at a lot of rain tomorrow. We're digging up nursery stock. So the main work for today, which I'll try to get some video shots of and share another time, is digging up woody perennials in our neighbor's field. We're digging up hazelnuts and peaches, chestnuts, English walnuts, Japanese walnuts, river locust, senna, Illinois bundleflower, all sorts of plants, while the ground is easy to walk on and work with. And then we're healing them into our more intimate landscape here for winter storage. Now I'm loaded up on the truck with what is basically a very simple set of materials and tools to be able to harvest trees. What we've been doing lately is we use burlap sacks. We dredge them in water, or we let them sit outside so they're really, really moist. We can wrap those around the roots of the trees as we dig them up. You can see here some more burlap soaking in water. We are evolving a relationship with a local, small, really neat company that has lots and lots of burlap sacks. The guy said he has 17 more sacks packed like this. And so we're thinking through more and more ways to use them as a really wonderful resource that break down in the earth. Got some milk crates so that as we dig the trees, we can collect rocks and pull them out of the field. We've got this beautiful fork that helps decompact soil. I spoke about that in another video. In fact, our King of Spades is another tool set we use extensively. I'll link to those as well where we're talking about them. But basically, we can dig up the trees with these really sharp, high-quality nursery tools. We can then wrap the trees in the burlap sacks that are moist, and we drive them back here. And what we've been doing, past this beautiful thicket of spontaneous 8-year-old pawpaws, is our front garden area. This was a riot of sunchokes and other plants that are high value nursery plants, but just had taken over the joint. And so we're going through systematically digging up these beds thoroughly, harvesting every last tuber of these beautiful cultivar sunchokes, sweet potato looking sunchokes, and making space to heal in our trees. And yet again, this will be a video where we go much deeper another time. But here you can see the peaches from yesterday's harvest, deeply soaked and hydrated with some rainwater, so the roots are super saturated, healed into rich, nice, loose soil. In this case, because they still have a little leaf, which is not ideal, but the timing, they need it to come out because the deer are starting to eat them. So we'll just flank them with moist burlap to keep them hydrated. And it should rain a bunch tomorrow and they'll be relaxed. Here we've got a third of our hazelnut crop dug up. We are looking at moving through digging as fast as we can and maybe offering a local flash sale of bulk trees, like 5 packs and 10 packs. We'll do single stuff too, but if the weather allows, we'll talk about it if it does seem like it lines up. But we've got upwards of a few thousand trees that need to find homes. The biggest ones we'd like to find homes locally. But we'll just keep banking them in. We'll talk about that more another time, but this loose soil will hold probably 1,000 to 2,000 trees once we move through all this material. So many folks who are in orbit of the Edible Acres YouTube scene are here because of the chickens. And so I apologize sincerely how little we've been talking about them. Just a quick note is they are doing really well for being a group of some really old ladies. We've got average of probably 4 or 5-year-old hens in here. Pretty minimal egg production, but what they do lay is beautiful. But they've been happy. We'll do a deeper dive soon around the compost management system. We're getting ready for leaf bag season, opening up a really huge gallery space in here of bulk materials, getting ready to cover those and mix those with leaves. And as per always, trying to facilitate an ever increasing borderline obscene amount of red wigglers and sprouts. This system just keeps evolving and deepening and building in resilience. I'm really excited to go quite a ways deeper into how this system is shaping up for this fall and winter. But for those who care and wish to know, our chickens are healthy, eating pretty darn well, and having a nice life. We'll talk more about them soon. That's a roundup of what's happening in the outside, in the gardens, in the chicken yard. And what's happening on the inside is Sasha and I welcomed our lovely little lady, Zelda, October 17th at 3:02 p.m. And we're all connecting and starting to get a sense of who this little fantastic, unique person is. It's changed our life in incredible ways, opened up our life in incredible ways. We appreciate so much you wonderful folks out there that have followed us on this journey as our gardens have expanded and our chicken systems have expanded and the nursery has grown and expanded, and now our little family is expanded a bit. And we really appreciate so much what feels like an immensely healthy and caring and thoughtful, positive community that has grown around the work we do. And I want to say just specifically to each and every one of you who have commented over the years or have just watched and enjoyed what we're up to and just sent really positive energy. We feel it, and we hope you feel it back from us. We really care about what's happening here and what we're growing. So thank you, and welcome little Zelda.